One of these players was supposed to be Dirk Nowitzki 2.0, but is now working as a part-time DJ. Another was drafted above Carmelo Anthony and is now busy drinking with truck drivers and tending cattle. But all of them were high draft picks, supposed to dominate the NBA. Now, they're known more for being some of the biggest letdowns in league history. These are the stories of some of the most prolific NBA busts, starting with the number 1 overall pick of the 1998 draft.
The Los Angeles Clippers select Michael Olowokandi from University of Pacific.
Michael Olowokandi had the weirdest path to the NBA of any player who was ever selected first overall. Olowokandi was born into a rich Nigerian family, and he spent most of his youth living in England, where basketball is one of the least popular sports. Michael first touched a basketball when he was 17, and it was completely by accident after he and some friends found an old basketball in the closet of their high school gym. Because he was 7'1", mobile, and athletic, it wasn't a surprise that Olowokandi was better at basketball than his friends. But when he got to college, he had nobody to play with since his university didn't even have a basketball team. But Olowokandi was determined to play, and on his 20th birthday, he opened up a catalog with a list of 3,000 universities in the US and just randomly selected the University of Pacific in Stockton, California. Olowokandi then called their athletic department, told them he was 7'1" and 265 pounds, and then offered to pay tuition himself if they allowed him to play. Pacific was a small basketball program that hadn't made the NCAA tournament in over a decade. So, when a 7-footer called them and offered his services and the tuition money he was willing to pay himself, there was no reason for them not to accept. Olowokandi arrived on campus in 1995, and initially, it was painfully obvious that he didn't have any experience in organized basketball, as he averaged only 4 points per game. However, during the next 2 seasons, Olowokandi, nicknamed Candyman, steadily improved, and as a senior he averaged 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game, as there were very few players in the NCAA that could match his size and athleticism. And in the 1998 draft that featured Vince Carter, Paul Pierce, Dirk Nowitzki, Antoine Jamison, and many other quality players, the Clippers selected Candyman first overall. The Clippers hoped Olowokandi would be the second coming of Hakeem Olajuwon, but as his NBA career went along, it became pretty obvious that Olowokandi had nothing except size and athleticism. Since he was already rich and didn't have the pressure to perform, Candyman treated basketball like a hobby. He wasn't willing to work to become a better player, and he was acting like a spoiled brat in the locker room. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whom the Clippers had hired specifically to work with Olowokandi, bashed Michael for not being able to handle constructive criticism and called him an athletically gifted washout. Somehow, Candyman stayed in the NBA for 9 years, averaging 8 points and 7 rebounds per game, while being one of the most inefficient big men of all time. After his career ended in 2007, he appeared on the reality TV show Basketball Wives with his now ex-wife, but after that, he disappeared from the public spotlight. He currently lives in England and travels the world, enjoying the $37 million he made from his hobby, which is a pretty sweet deal. And 8 years after Candyman got drafted first overall, another 7-foot center became the number 1 pick.
The Toronto Raptors select Andrea Bargnani.
However, his game was completely different. Andrea Bargnani wasn't a physical specimen, but he was a polished offensive player who could shoot the hell out of the ball.
That Miami has dealt with before this season. Andrea! Oh, Bargnani count the bucket!
And the Toronto Raptors believed that they were drafting Dirk Nowitzki 2.0, but that's not how it played out at all. Even though he had a couple of decent years offensively, averaging 19 points per game between 2010 and 2012, Bargnani was a black hole on defense and one of the worst rebounders ever at his size. Toronto couldn't wait to get rid of him, and Bargnani ended his NBA career at the age of 30, playing one more season in Europe before he retired from basketball. And even though his career average of 14 points per game doesn't scream bust, the Italian big man averaged just 4.6 rebounds, had more turnovers than assists, and certainly underachieved as the first overall pick. But since his retirement, Bargnani has kept busy, and per his Instagram profile, he's quite a renaissance man, with his activities ranging from blogging to being an astronaut trainee. And even if all of these titles aren't completely true, Bargnani recently appeared on several podcasts where he revealed he's an active tennis player, a traveler, and a full-time dad, which is always great to hear. And despite Bargnani being the first European to get drafted first overall, another European center was a much bigger bust than him. Drafted second overall in 2003, in front of Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, Darko Milicic became a synonym for European busts due to his hot temper and complete lack of motivation for basketball. By pure talent alone, Darko had it all: size, strength, skill, and a soft touch with his left hand. However, all he ever did in the NBA can be summarized by a Biggie Smalls song: bullshit and party. With zero ability to handle criticism, showing up drunk to games and practices, pretending that he didn't speak English, and being an overall nuisance on every team he played for, Darko was a nightmare. Somehow, he survived in the league for a decade, earning $52 million, despite averaging just 6 points and 4 rebounds per game. I was the most talented young player in the world, but I didn't finish the job. I didn't work. I didn't try to listen to what they told me. I was like a cow that gives 20 liters of milk and then kicks the bucket and spills it. Nowadays, Darko is aware that he was acting like a complete ass, and he tries to teach his 3 kids not to repeat the same mistakes, as 2 of his boys are playing basketball, and his daughter is a talented tennis player. Apart from his children, Darko was very busy with agriculture, and for more than a decade, he was producing apples on a 15-acre property in Serbia. However, he recently got out of the apple business and now has a farm with sheep and cows, which he says brings him a lot of joy. Other than that, you can find him in local bars in Serbia, where he drinks rakia with his buddies, who are mostly truck drivers and have nothing to do with basketball. And with a story similar to Darko, we have another 7-footer, who was most famous for being overweight. Eddie Curry was the 4th overall pick in the 2001 draft, selected ahead of multiple All-Stars, such as Joe Johnson, Tony Parker, Zach Randolph, and Gilbert Arenas. However, it was easy to see why Curry got drafted so high. A 7-footer with nimble feet, soft touch, and strong as an ox, Curry drew comparisons to Shaquille O'Neal, and he could even make free throws. But in the end, the only thing comparable to Shaq was the number on the scale. After the 2007 season, where he averaged 19.5 points per game for the Knicks, Curry started struggling with mental health, which led to overeating. Curry ballooned to 350 pounds, and from 2008 until his retirement in 2013, he appeared in only 26 games, scoring a total of 70 points while earning more than $10 million per season. He was out of the NBA by age of 30, when most players are in their prime, and today, Curry is mostly busy being a father to his 8 children, and he works as a consultant for young athletes, teaching the importance of mental health and dealing with sports as a business. And another former 4th overall pick who struggled with weight and mental health is now regretting his mistakes as a player. Dion Waiters was the 4th pick in the 2012 NBA draft, and by sheer talent, he was one of the best players in the draft. Waiters averaged 14 points per game as a rookie and 16 points as a sophomore, showing a knack for scoring and forming an exciting backcourt with Kyrie Irving. However, when LeBron James came back to Cleveland, Waiters showed he was not able to adjust to playing off the ball and trying hard on defense, so he quickly got traded to OKC. There, his production dropped because he wasn't in shape. However, that all changed when he signed with Miami. Due to their famous training regime, Waiters dropped to 8% body fat, and he had the most productive season of his career, averaging 15.8 points and a career-high 4.3 assists. But after he signed a big contract with the Heat, Waiters got complacent, which was never going to fly with Heat culture and Pat Riley. In 2019, Waiters was suspended by the Heat on 3 different occasions. First, for complaining to the media about playing time, and second, after consuming THC edibles that prompted a panic attack on the team plane. And a month later, Waiters was suspended for 6 games for posting a picture celebrating his birthday after calling out sick, which got him traded to Memphis. He last appeared in the NBA in 2020, winning a championship with the Lakers, even though he only played 38 total minutes during the playoffs. But due to his attitude and poor work ethic, Waiters didn't receive any offers from the NBA, despite being only 28 years old. In 2023, Waiters tried making a comeback, working out in front of several NBA executives, but nobody decided to take a chance on him. In 2024, Dion made headlines after selling his enormous estate in Florida for $11 million. But as far as basketball goes, his career is over, even though he's still only 32 years old. Another high-profile guard with even more talent than Waiters, and was also out of the league at the age of 28, is OJ Mayo. After dominating in high school and scoring 20 points per game in his only season at USC, Mayo was drafted 3rd overall by the Grizzlies in 2008, and at first, nobody could say that he was a bust. As a rookie, OJ averaged 18 points per game, finishing 2nd in Rookie of the Year voting behind Derrick Rose, and in front of Russell Westbrook, Kevin Love, and Brook Lopez. However, unlike those players who all became All-Stars, Mayo peaked as a rookie, and his numbers kept decreasing, while the problems he had off the court kept increasing. In 2016, 2013, after his second offense for substance abuse, the NBA banned him for 2 years, after which he never played in the league again. However, he continued his career in Puerto Rico, Taiwan, China, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, where he's still playing now at the age of 37. And 1 year after Mayo got drafted, the 2009 draft had 2 big busts selected in the top 6. The first one was Hasheem Thabeet, an athletic 7'3" center from Tanzania who shined at UConn, averaging 4.2 blocks per game and winning the Big East Defensive Player of the Year as a junior. After drafting Mayo the year before, the Grizzlies hoped that Thabeet would become the NBA's next great rim protector, selecting him second overall. But Thabeet proved to be just another tall guy with zero feel for the game. Just like Mayo, his best year was his rookie season, where he averaged 3 points per game, which tells you how big of a bust he was if 3 points was his career high. Thabeet was out of the league after 5 years, but he's still an active player, and he currently plays in Taiwan, where he won a Defensive Player of the Year award in 2021. And with the 6th overall pick in the 2009 NBA draft, we have another bust, who wasn't nearly as bad, but he will forever be remembered for getting drafted ahead of Steph Curry. Curry's biggest weakness coming into the league was his small frame, but after they selected Ricky Rubio with the 5th overall pick, Minnesota also had the 6th pick. And instead of Curry, they drafted Johnny Flynn, who's 3 inches shorter than Curry. Flynn had a solid rookie season, averaging 13 points and 4 assists per game, finishing 5th in the Rookie of the Year voting. But then, in his second season, Flynn injured his hip and was never the same. Johnny was out of the league after just 3 seasons, but he continued playing in Australia, China, and Italy before retiring from basketball in 2015, right when Curry won his first MVP. Flynn stayed connected to basketball and is now an assistant coach for the USC Trojans. And from one of the most stacked drafts in recent memory that produced 7 All-Stars and 4 future Hall of Famers in Kyrie, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi, and Klay, the 2nd overall pick in 2011 is long gone and forgotten. It's Derek Williams, a 6'8" athletic small forward who averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds per game in his sophomore season at Arizona, shooting an unbelievable 59% from the field and 57% for 3. But when he got to the NBA, Williams' jump shot disappeared like a fart in the wind. In his 7-year career, he averaged 30% shooting for 3, scoring a mediocre 9 points per game. After his last season in the NBA in 2018 and 6 teams in 7 seasons, Williams continued to bounce around different teams in Europe, last playing for Panathinaikos in 2023. He's still playing basketball, participating in pickup games with Chet Holmgren and Klay Thompson during the 2024 offseason, but he's currently still without a team, just like the next bust on our list. Nerlens Noel was considered one of the most talented rim protectors in the 2013 NBA draft, where he was drafted 6th overall by the Philadelphia 76ers. Even though the biggest bust from this draft was certainly Anthony Bennett, who last played in Taiwan in 2023 and now owns a clothing brand, Nerlens Noel was a much more highly touted prospect, but a couple of knee injuries kept Noel out of the lineup for his entire rookie season, and when he returned, he was never able to replicate the success he had in college when he averaged over 4 blocks per game for Kentucky. Nerlens last played in the NBA in 2023, and in 2024 he was signed and immediately waived by the Kings, who paid him $300,000 despite Noel not playing a single minute for the team. Noel is still only 30 years old, but it seems that he's given up on basketball and is enjoying life with his family with the $45 million he made in the NBA. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, we've got another one for you right here.